This is Meals on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Let's osmium at that place right there. Don't listen to me. Everything we say is to be taken as bullcrap. And this is for fun, not for profit or health. Got all the important stuff out of the way. Now it's time for more important stuff to get out of the way. What should we start with? Let's start out with the weirdness and why some people are saying, oh, housing prices are going up, and other people are saying, oh, no, housing prices are going down. Light explanation for this. And yes, those are my kittens fighting in the background. It's play fighting. Don't worry about it.
A tale of two housing markets, home prices in half the country on the way up and in the other half going down. Let's bring in Katrina Campins, Fox Business real estate contributor and host of Mansion Global. Katrina, great to have you on. People have so many questions when it comes to the housing market right now. And it seems that, there's still a wait and see for these interest rates to maybe come down and increase affordability. So what are we seeing right now and what are the trends?
Thanks for having me on, Sandra. Real estate has always been about location, location, location. And that's more true now than ever. Right now, the U.S. housing market feels like two different countries. In parts of the South, like Texas and Florida, prices are softening as post-pandemic building booms finally catch up to demand. Yet in the Midwest and the Northeast, home prices continue to climb due to aging housing stock, restrictive zoning, and sluggish permitting that stifles new construction. Now, even where prices are cooling, homes remain about 46% more expensive than before the pandemic. This regional divide is fueling a national reshuffling. Families and businesses are leaving high-cost, heavily regulated blue states for lower-tax, pro-growth red states, accelerating America's political and economic transformation. But beneath the headline lies a deeper problem, a structural mismatch between where homes are being built and where the demand actually exists. There's outdated zoning laws and labor shortages and underinvestment infrastructure, which are blocking growth.
And that is what we are seeing, right? Where it's easier to build new homes. You're seeing those prices come back down. Obviously, when supply goes up, it allows those prices to come down. This is a snapshot of the U.S. Census Bureau over the past year. The amount of new homes for sale up almost 9%. Median sale price then comes down about 3%, but still new home sales is down. So this is a sign that the U.S. housing market is cooling. This is President Trump suggesting when he spoke about this. He took a question on the housing market just a couple weeks ago, suggesting lowering those interest rates will help a lot. Listen.
How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market in this country?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses. We should have lowered interest rates many times. Europe lowered their rate 10 times. We lowered ours none. And it's causing a problem for people that want to buy a home.
So you got to think that if you're a buyer in this market, that you're saying, well, if they're talking about lowering the interest rates in September, I might as well wait. And if you're a seller, you might be thinking about waiting because you've got to go get into another house. So maybe that's what this is all about.
There's so much going on in the housing market. We also have to realize a really important data is affecting the housing market, which is family formation, right? Less people are getting married. So that's also affecting home ownership. Long time.
All right, that's enough about that. Now let's go into the next one. Share screen. Here we go. China. We all like China.
Government employees are being told, hey, you can't travel abroad without permission. Some workers have even been ordered to hand in their passports. Gordon Chang joins us now. Why is China closing up? Why are they afraid of foreign contact?
First of all, Stuart, I think that there's just paranoia, but also they know that they're in trouble. When someone travels abroad, they bring money out, and China has a cash problem. The other thing is that I think that there's a general concern that people in Beijing see that if people travel abroad, Chinese travel abroad, they're going to get a very different view of the world than recent Chinese propaganda. The gap between what China says about itself and reality is growing. And we've seen that over the last couple months. I think Beijing is really, really worried.
Is Xi Jinping's leadership a little brittle? Is with us? You were saying, yeah, he's got problems.
Yeah, he certainly has problems. And we're going to know by the end of October how true these two big events between now and then. One of them is that there has traditionally been senior Chinese leaders meet at a seaside resort, Beidahe, and they often hammer out really important leadership decisions. The second thing is the Communist Party is holding its fourth plenum in October. That's going to deal with a lot of economic issues. We're going to see how Xi Jinping weathered these 2 months. If he weathers them, then he's okay. But if not, I think there's going to be a real change in the leadership. And we're all just waiting. It's criminology.
I wonder how they're going to deal with this, because China's fertility rate is falling. A study suggests it's dropped below replacement levels. Is China's
This is
population
very,
actually
very, very
falling,
bad.
Gordon? And if it is, what's the implications of that?
It's been falling for about 3 years. It's now about 1.4 billion people. Some say 1.3 billion.
Yeah,
But by
right.
the end of this century, Stuart, it's going to be somewhere between 330 and 770 million. This is going to be the biggest population fall in history in the absence of war or disease. And essentially, China's total fertility rate now is probably half of replacement. So you can see why this population is going to collapse fairly soon.
You need the fertility rate has to be 2.1. That for replacement. Your population stays stable at 2.1. I think that's babies per woman in a lifetime, whatever measure of it. But China's fertility rate is half that now?
Yeah, China claims 1.3. Some Chinese demographers say it's actually 1.1. You'll see some say 1.0. There's a lot of disagreement about fertility in China for a number of reasons, but clearly it's around half of replacement.
But that's an economic problem, isn't it? Because if your
Very much
fertility
so.
rate shrinks,
They don't have
your
workers.
population
That's why all
actually
the
gets
workers are
older,
going to
and there
India.
are more and more
Industries are
retired
going to
people who
India for
have
the
to be
past 10 years.
supported
Like, I've
by
been reporting
fewer and
for
fewer
the past 10
actual
years.
workers. That's the economic problem for China.
Dependency ratio, and China's dependency ratio is worse than almost every other country's. So it's not just a shrinking population, it is who's in that population. And by the way, China believes that it can get around this with robots, but you can't do that. You can ameliorate some of the effects of population decline by automation, but not to the extent that China needs.
Okay. According to the Wall Street Journal, China's limiting access to critical minerals for our defense companies. Gordon, I thought we had an agreement on these minerals. Is China not honoring their side of the deal?
They're not honoring the May 12th agreement. But, by the way, China, we got to buy, but China's got to sell. The Chinese had as rare earths to Japan in 2010. The Japanese said, we're not going to put up with this. And actually, they got around it, actually also buying directly from Chinese state enterprises that had to sell. And about 2 or 3 months later, the Chinese just dropped the export ban because it wasn't working. We're so much more powerful than Japan is. We should be able to do the same thing. Yes, it's going to hurt. But remember, we've got a lot of leverage, too. We've got parts for Boeings. They need access to our market right now because China is more export dependent than it's been in a very long time. President Trump still holds the high card.
And people think China's in the lead. I've been telling you guys for years. I know you guys know. But a lot of China industry has been going. The pharmaceutical industry of China has already moved to India, and they're having logistic problems with changing companies or something like that right now, or starting even new pharmaceutical companies because they're taking even more of China's pharmaceutical business. And they've been funneling out China's manufacturing business to India. I don't recall the numbers, but it's something like 60% of India's, or 80% of India's population is between the age of 10 to 30, and the rest of it's older, to where China's population, majority of their population, like 60% of their population, is in the 40s to 60s. So if you're an industry leader and you're looking to build, you don't want to put it in a country where they're aging out. China is what's known as aging out. And this demographics he just gave about the population not being replaced means they don't have the young kids, which means they're bad to invest in. If you're a multi-billion or trillion-dollar company, you would have seen this years ago, and you would have said, ooh, I need to move everything to India, where their demographics are a lot better. And if you get into the study and research of demographics, you will see that it is a lot better. Hey, what's up, Mike? It's a lot better in India than anywhere in the world. And that's why most manufacturing was moving to India until BRICS started to fall apart, which it is. And now with this new manufacturing is coming back to America. And we also have a very decent population to handle it.
And I hope that he plays them.
What do you think? I've got 30 seconds. What do you think are the chances of a China trade deal within the next month?
I don't think so, because I think both China and the United States are stalling. China's stalling because of the leadership turmoil. We're stalling because President Trump is stitching up all these trade deals that are isolating China. So actually, delay helps us. And I think that's what Trump is doing.
Oh, wow. Cool. So we're actually doing the right thing by America. All right. I'm doing a lot of talking here. Let's go to... Oh, here's one of my favorite topics. Space. Holy cow, let's talk about nuclear and space. This is Sky News Australia. Nuclear power station on the moon. Why is a nuclear my favorite two subjects?
Bans nuclear power stations for Australia. They're wicked. In contrast, the US is not only building its own power stations, nuclear ones, but Donald Trump's new transport secretary now says it plans to build a nuclear power station on the moon to power future human activity there. Secretary Duffy has told staff to probably advance this critical technology to be able to support a future lunar economy, high-powered energy generation on Mars, and strengthen our national security in space. It is imperative the agency move quickly. How quickly? Duffy wants that nuclear power station on the moon launched in just 5 years, when the first Chinese astronauts are expected there. Joining me is the panel, Sky News commentator Joe Hildebrand and Sky News host Danica DiGiorgio, now with her own show here every Friday at 5 p.m. Danica, first of all, I've got to thank you for the week that you filled in for me. But a nuclear power station on the moon, good idea or sacrilege?
I actually think this is sacrilege, Andrew. I do not like this idea at all. Actually, I was wondering if life is about... Floyd's greatest album was The Dark Side of the Moon. Are we about to experience the dark side of the moon by sticking a nuclear reactor up there? Look, I am all for space exploration. It is so important. But I don't like the idea. I think this was just a complete thought bubble. What sort of technology...
First off, this woman is a total weirdo in this subject, because as a William MC, one of my ago, I had suggested that he look at a division of Rolls-Royce, and he did, and he purchased into it, and he's made 1,300% profit off of it. Well, that division he bought the stock of about 3 years ago, and the reason why it's done so well is because the country of England, who Australia is subservient to, the country of England signed a contract 2.5 years ago with the Rolls-Royce company to build a lunar nuclear power station to be delivered no later than 2032. So now, today, in 20 years, 2.5 years later, this lady's going off like a lunatic because she's uneducated.
Is America going to use to be able to transmit this effectively? Why does America need a nuclear reactor on the moon?
Well, why does England need a nuclear reactor on the moon? See, she doesn't know the full story. So that's how you know she's selling a narrative.
Moon. They've already got 94. I mean, perhaps they could send one our way while we're going on this green dream of oblivion. But I actually think this is part of a bigger plan by America. It's part of this space race. They're up against China and Russia. They want to...
Ah, she must be getting paid by the Chinese to sell misinformation. Okay.
Get this reactor there by 2030. At the same time, China wants to get a manned mission up there. I think it's all about competition, but I just think that the moon is sacred. Do not touch.
It's all about competition, and she's leaving out that England is 2.5 years ahead of America and China, just to put some perspective on that, to let you know how biased that person is. They are very biased. And it's nice when you have good information. Yeah, it's all about the narrative, indeed. All about the narrative. And you got to watch the narrative. And that's why you guys need to subscribe and like and share and show up, because I'll let you know what narratives are being sold to us, because America has a short attention span. So they probably didn't realize, except for those people that are making money on the stock market, who are making money off of England's contract with Rolls-Royce to build a small modular or micro nuclear reactor for their moon base 2 years after America wants one. You know, it's like crazy. Oh, that was very bad script reading. Very bad script reading. I don't think she believed what she was saying either, Gerald. But just to let you know, it's everything's corrupt. Even though I bring you news from other countries about America, it's still skewed, and they have their own agenda. But anyhow, let's go to a cool story. This is replacing, this is awesome. This is the new U.S. aircraft take off like a helicopter, flies like a jet. It's the Defense Central. This is replacing the Osprey that they've had so many problems with. This is what they initially wanted when they started developing this technology, that they settled for the Osprey as an intermediate. This is the finite project they wanted. It is bad booty.
5. DARPA chose Bell Textron to build a next-generation rotorcraft that could transform how the U.S. military moves troops and equipment. The new X-plane will take off like a helicopter, fly like a jet, and use foldable rotors to shift between modes mid-flight. If successful, it could overcome the key limitations of today's tilt rotors and offer the speed, range, and survivability needed for future battlefields. So, in today's video, we're breaking down everything we know about DARPA and Bell's rotor-folding X-plane, how it works, why it matters, and what lessons the U.S. has learned from the troubled V-22 Osprey. Let's dive in.
Waiting for that dive. Got to throw up some stuff about DARPA before we dive in.
The new X-plane
now we're
is being
diving.
developed under DARPA's SPRINT program, short for Speed and Runway Independent Technologies. This initiative focuses on designing an aircraft that combines the vertical lift of a helicopter with the cruise efficiency and speed of a jet, without needing long runways. Sprint-capable aircraft could play a major role in Pacific and Arctic theaters, where large runways may be vulnerable or unavailable. In these regions, the ability—
Look at that. These things can take off from a small platform in the middle of the ocean, any ocean, and complete a job. We could have them just out there in the ocean. It's like a replacement for a sub.
to take off from confined spaces and fly hundreds of kilometers at high speed could allow forces to outmaneuver and outpace enemy defenses. That's exactly where the X-plane comes in. Bell's concept features folding rotors that change configuration in midair, letting the aircraft shift between vertical lift and forward jet-like flight with far greater efficiency than current tilt rotors. While specific design details remain classified, Bell has released a concept image showing a sleek aircraft with forward-swept wings, twin engines, and rotors that fold after takeoff. This folding mechanism is central to the aircraft's promise. It reduces drag, which could allow the X-plane to fly faster and farther than anything in the current fleet. Bell has decades of tiltrotor experience, most notably with the V-22 Osprey and the upcoming V-280 Valor. But this new aircraft pushes beyond traditional tiltrotors. Instead of rotating the entire engine nacelle like on the V-22, Bell's X-plane may use a hybrid setup where only the rotors tilt or fold, improving aerodynamic performance. DARPA is funding the project through a 12-month initial phase focused on design and risk reduction. If successful, Bell will move to build and fly a demonstrator by 2027. Tiltrotors have been in U.S. military service for decades, with the V-22 Osprey leading the way.
Yeah, they
It was
suck,
the world's first operational tiltrotor and introduced a new category of aircraft that could take.
Not only do they suck, look at the amount of freaking blade you need. It's like, man, that's like 10 foot away from where you're sitting in the cockpit when it goes down to flight mode instead of takeoff mode. And yes, they do crash a lot, and a lot of Marines and Army guys have been messed up by this in particular airplane.
Off vertically, but cruise like a turboprop. However, the Osprey has faced persistent reliability and safety issues.
There you go.
Between
One of them.
2000 and 2023, over 50 people were killed in crashes involving V-22 aircraft. In late 2023, the entire fleet was grounded after a fatal crash in Japan caused by a clutch failure. These incidents have raised serious questions about the long-term viability of the
There is
platform.
no viability.
While the Osprey remains in service, the Pentagon has acknowledged the need for new aircraft with better safety margins, simpler maintenance, and higher performance. Bell's new X-plane aims to solve many of the problems seen with the V-22. One key improvement is rotor folding. By reducing rotor drag during forward flight, the aircraft can reach jet-like speeds, potentially over 600 kilometers per hour, while consuming less fuel and remaining stable at high altitudes. It's also expected to feature more advanced flight modes and modular payload capabilities. Unlike the V-22, which relies on two massive nacelles that rotate together, the X-plane's more compact design could improve mechanical reliability and reduce the risk of asymmetric flight.
Smaller is better.
The result is an aircraft designed not just for transport, but for contested environments, where stealth viability will be essential.
Why do you think we're rolling these out right before China wants to do some crazy shit? We rolled out the Manta. We're rolling this out. We're rolling out the new artillery rounds we have, the new Marine strategy of warfare for the Indo-Pacific. 2 years.
The timing of this program is no coincidence. As the U.S. shifts its focus toward peer competition, especially in the Indo-Pacific, mobility and logistics have become a top priority. In a potential conflict with China, forces may need to rapidly deploy across islands and operate.
That right there goes exactly along with the Marine strategy of island hopping using the robotic technology with 100-man units. They're totally redeveloping the whole military strategy and the Marine Corps' fundamentals for that style of warfare. And this is going to be their air support. And if you saw them sitting on drums in the middle of the ocean, what I was going to mention is these could be made a lot smaller in drone form and could be very easily dropped off by one of the Marines, aircraft carrier units. And they could pre-drop off about 24 of these things on those little floating platforms before their small 100-man invasion force goes island hopping. And they would have a whole air support, air supremacy while island hopping, kicking butt on a Navy with 100 men. It's going to be cool if it ever happens.
Operate in areas with no secure runways. Helicopters are too slow and vulnerable. Jets are fast, but need long runways. Tiltrotors are stuck somewhere in the middle. This new X-plane could offer the speed to outrun threats and the agility to land where others can't, bridging the gap between helicopters and fixed craft in ways that current systems simply can't match.
Imagine Omaha Beach and those things came in instead of the Liberty landing craft where they opened up the door and you instantly got shot. You come in on these things here, firing your missiles at that cliffside, then landing. Yeah, totally changes everything.
The next year will be critical. Bell will finalize its design and begin building the components needed for a full-scale demonstrator. If all goes well, DARPA expects the X-plane to fly by 2027. Even if the program doesn't lead to an operational aircraft right away, the technologies developed under SPRINT could influence future military rotorcraft across all branches. The Army, Navy, and Air Force are all watching closely. And
now what you'll see here is they're going to come up with an automated unit because they're going to find that the first trials they come up with might be too risky for humans, but not too risky for a robotic unit. So we'll still turn them out, but we'll and perfect the technology through a robotic autonomous units, and it'll be a change of mission style instead of a manned delivery or whatnot. It'll start off with the robotics because of safety margins, and after they work all those safety margins out, it'll go to a manned unit. That's my prediction.
Follow-on programs may adopt elements of the folding rotor design in their own fleet.
What's up, Conqueror Balls?
The V-22 Osprey showed what tilt rotors could do,
DARPA today,
but also
just
what they
part
couldn't.
of the conversation. Next one's
Now,
gonna be real good.
DARPA and Bell are betting on a next-generation rotorcraft that could finally deliver the speed, safety, and flexibility that future battlefields demand. So, what do you think?
What do you think? Dun dun dun. I don't know. What do I think? I think a lot of things. I think what I'm going to show you next will answer a lot of your questions about a lot of things about the next subject that we're going to be talking about. That was very non-descriptive, but you'll understand. Here we go.
Let's dive into this. What is the Oversight Committee exactly looking for? I mean, I'm looking through some of these names and all these attorney general.
This is 1 hour ago. It's Newsmax. They got like 2.42 million subscribers. Just let you know where this is coming from.
And the FBI director at this list, I was mistaken. I thought it was about Russiagate.
Right.
I asked you that. Can't be about Epstein. You corrected me and said it is. With the list of subpoenas going out to these individuals, high profile, mind you, what are they looking for?
They are going back to the earliest days of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with the Justice Department. So they're going back to when Alexander Acosta was, this is under President Obama, was U.S. attorney in Miami and negotiated a deal with Epstein's lawyer, our friend and colleague, Professor Dershowitz, who did a fabulous job representing Epstein. But during the course of those negotiations, Alexander Acosta supposedly said, I was told to go easy on him because he's intel. Now they're going to ask him, Mr. Acosta, Secretary Acosta, he's the former Secretary of Labor, who told you Epstein was intel? We want to interview that person. They're going way back. They're going back to when Robert Mueller not was the special prosecutor for Donald Trump, but was the director of the FBI.
Tripped me up.
Correct. That's what tripped you up. What also tripped you up, and I don't know why she's on this
The
list.
Clintons?
Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Yes.
What does she have to do with Epstein?
Mm.
So
Would
this
it
is-
be, I mean, the flight logs in which someone's names appear?
Could be. This is extremely broad. As I said, they are asking for everything the DOJ has except the names of the victims.
What about President Clinton? We talked about executive privilege or immunity, presidential immunity. Does that apply? It applies to Obama, right?
I don't think it would apply to him because
Why is that?
his travel, as I understand it, his travel with Epstein or on this plane did not occur while he was president and was not part of any presidential core functions. This was either before or I think probably after he had left the White House. So are you going to see the Fifth Amendment invoked by people who, when they were in power, were everyday household names? Or is the House committee going to get to the bottom of who knew what when?
Yeah. And how much focus is going to be on what was happening before he was sentenced and even what happened while he was serving time?
Well, as Sean pointed out, part of this investigation is how did he die? What investigate? They're going to go after Attorney General Barr for this. Who's a very smart guy, but they're going to go after him. You were running the Bureau of Prisons indirectly. You were the AG. How did he die? What investigation did you conduct to determine how he died? How is it that your pathologist said he killed himself, but the family pathologist, the best in the country, Michael Baden, said it's impossible for his neck to have been broken the way it was by his own hands?
Somebody has to say something, though. If this entire list comes back taking the fifth, is that...
That's going to look terrible if all these people take the fifth. Ranking people in the government, starting with the president, going down to at least 3 attorneys general, Holder, Sessions, and Barr. The way this normally works is these people are interrogated in private by committee lawyers and committee investigators before they're interrogated in public. That's the way it works with the ordinary run-of-the-mill witness. But these people are not ordinary run-of-the-mill.
No.
I don't think Mrs. Clinton's going to sit down twice for this, once in private and once in public.
Do you think she sits down at all?
Well, she'll have no choice but to sit down. You talk about arresting the people from Texas. This committee can go across the street to federal court and get an order for the arrest of anybody that refuses to come in and testifies before them.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff
I know.
up.
I know. I don't want to smile during it because
No,
it's
no, I shouldn't be
very
smiling.
No, I'm just saying there's such a buildup for this because you pointed this out too. That the court, I know we got to go. Court of public opinion has pressured this story so hard that now you're seeing this play out with the oversight committee.
You would think that this is a Democratic oversight committee, what they're doing to the Trump administration, but the Republican oversight committee,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me veering into politics, is under tremendous pressure from its own base.
Absolutely. The MAGA base has been very vocal.
Yes.
You know, generally
They wanna
speaking
know.
here, they want to know answers. Judge, thank you very much for weighing in.
You're welcome,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
All right. And that is that one. Hey! Sorry, guys, cat's fighting. Let's see. Next one. This is, hey, be nice or go outside. Here we go. This is Sabine Hassenfeld, a very renowned physicist. I am subscribed. Let's give her a like. Let's increase the screen. Let's check the volume. And it is about, did Microsoft just fix its quantum problem? If they fix their quantum problem, all that technology we just saw will be here within a year and a half to 2 years.
Microsoft unveiled a new quantum processor that they say will revolutionize computing. The announcement attracted much criticism from the community, but now Microsoft put out a new paper in which they demonstrate some key functionalities. Are they maybe onto something after all?
It's cool.
Have we dismissed Microsoft too quickly? Let's have a look. In February this year, Microsoft introduced Majorana 1 that uses topological qubits. According to their press release, they can realize quantum computers capable of solving meaningful industrial scale problems in years, not decades. If they could do this, that'd be huge. Unlock major progress in several industries, including finance, and that's not
defense.
just wishful thinking. If Microsoft beats them all by years, they'll get rich beyond belief. Most big companies like Google and IBM have pursued quantum computing.
And we'll have such new defense technologies like what I just showed you. It'll be wow.
With qubits that are superconducting circuits. Microsoft has taken a completely different approach. They want to use topological qubits. The disadvantage of those is that they're very difficult to produce, but the big advantage is that once you have them, they're less susceptible to noise, and that could help scaling them up to larger devices much faster. They want to produce the topological qubits with tiny aluminium wires cooled to about 50 millikelvin. That's colder than outer space, but still warmer than Microsoft's customer service. The press release from February was accompanied by a paper published in Nature that, however, only showed that they could produce one parity state and measure out its two values with 99% reliability. The press release was heavily criticized for overstating the case, as the paper didn't actually show they had any topological qubits. I talked about this in an earlier video. Now, researchers from Microsoft have posted a new preprint on the archive. They say that they successfully created a qubit with 4 Majorana modes and demonstrated that they can reliably read out 2 parity states. So in the February paper, they had 2 values of 1 parity state. Now they have 2 parity states. This is a key proof of principle, but there are 2 caveats. One is that the error rates for those states are fairly high. In one case, 0.5%, in the other, 16%. 16%.
Yeah, that's
That's
bad.
not an error rate. That's a personality trait. The other caveat is that it still doesn't prove that the qubits are truly topological. For that, you'd have to show that they're indeed protected by noise and that they behave as predicted when measurements between the two states are iterated. At almost the same time, another new paper appeared that says topological qubits aren't as well protected from noise as everyone thought. The authors claim that researchers have so far underestimated the relevance of 1/f noise, which is ubiquitous in electronic circuits. They say that topological qubits are not well protected from that noise, and it decoheres superpositions within a nanosecond. Well, the guys from Microsoft simply disagree. Chetan Nayak, lead author of the Microsoft papers, told HPC Wire that this problem has been well studied for a decade in theory papers. We have both direct and indirect experimental measurements in our devices showing that the associated error rates are small. So basically they're saying, whatever the guys in the noise paper calculated, it doesn't agree with what they see in reality. What are we to make of this? Well, neither of these papers have been peer-reviewed. Microsoft has previously had to retract several papers on their topological research, but I think those were honest mistakes. And it's not like anyone actually doubts that topological states exist. They'll get there eventually. But even if that works out, topological qubits are a big gamble because no one knows how much of an advantage they'll indeed bring. You see, even if they worked as the math says, that would only protect certain types of operations, so noise will still remain a problem. And meanwhile, other companies are improving their error correction protocols. If I take all this together, it seems to me that Microsoft is still well behind Google and IBM in terms of quantum computing, though they're very competitive in terms of marketing. Quantum mechanics, algorithms, statistics sounds scary, but don't let yourself be intimidated. Have a look at the courses on Brilliant because I found them to be great at breaking down complex ideas into interactive lessons that anyone can follow. All courses on Brilliant.
Yeah, that was kind of hard to follow. But yeah, she's funny. She throws in a lot of sarcasm to her stuff. Sabine Hassenfeld, all the smart physicists even talk about her because she is very smart. Okay, now let's see. Where are we at? We have... Oh, one story left. Let's see. Theoretical. What's easy? The thing about science and physics is they're not going to turn information over to the general populace for anyone to work on and perfect. You see that? For anyone to work on, and including our enemies to work on and perfect. They won't even allow a peer review, or they'll delay for certain peer reviews until they can perfect the technology before we turn it out to the world for all of our enemies to grab a hold of and use. That's one thing about the NSA. They are, and our intelligence agencies, the Army intelligence, the Navy intelligence, all the different intelligence services, especially now that they're not controlled by the 51 people who had their intelligence clearances stripped from them because they weren't doing the right thing by America. Now it's starting to work the way it's supposed to work. If the government's turning out those kinds of stories to us, trust me, this isn't the Clinton days where we turn over a spy plane to China and then give the 7 people on the spy plane a ticker-day parade for not doing their constitutional duty of protecting and defending America and turning over all the national secrets to China. Those days are gone. As one of the reports I just showed you, they're already looking at hauling in the Clintons and other people to have them taken to jail for their crimes. So things are changing. The intelligence agencies heads, those 51 people, they were ousted and their security clearances taken away a month and a half, 2 months ago, which means they have absolutely zero idea what's going on. So they can't tell whoever they were telling all that information to, they can't tell. that information to, because they no longer have access to that information. That's a game changer. So that for them shortly thereafter to come out with this type of technological leaps and just paperwork, but for them to release it publicly, knowing that we have a different intelligence agency now than we did 2 months ago, it's a big deal, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. My opinion is just one of 7-8 billion on the planet, however many people we have. Okay, here we go. This is a subject I've talked about for a couple of years. This is $1 billion builds, 136,000 subscribers. Let me give him a thumbs up. Africa's $5 billion mega dam that terrifies Egypt is finally complete. Finally.
Has sustained life across Northeast Africa, nourishing fields, fueling economies, and shaping civilizations. But as populations grow, the climate shifts, and development pressures mount. The competition to control its waters has intensified. In Ethiopia, a bold vision emerged to build a massive hydroelectric dam that could transform the nation's energy future and drive economic growth. The scale would be unprecedented, Africa's largest dam, demanding engineering ingenuity, billions in investment, and political resolve. From the outset, the project sparked regional unease. Downstream countries, particularly Egypt and Sudan, feared that the dam could give Ethiopia the power to control the Nile's flow, raising concerns over water security, dam safety, and long-term cooperation. Yet despite opposition, Ethiopia pressed ahead. Built on one of the Nile's most strategic arteries, this megastructure has now become a defining symbol of pride, power, and controversy as it has reached its completion. Today, let's delve into the $5 billion Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and like this video, as it's the best way to support this channel.
Yeah, this is huge. I've been keeping up with this for a while. Not the game, the story. There we go.
The Nile River, stretching over 6,600 kilometers across 11 countries, has long shaped the political and economic.
It's definitely reshaping. With all this power they're getting, it's not affecting the water flow. They're still releasing water. It was only affecting it for 5 years. They had to fill the reservoir. Once the reservoir gets filled, they can allow the flow to go back to where it doesn't affect the water that much downstream. The big part is, and I did a story on this about 2 years ago, the infrastructure is being built for them to send extra power to countries that are power deficient in Central Africa right now, which will energize and renovate the economy of several Central Eastern African countries. And that is actually the destabilizing part, because right now they don't play a big role in politics. But if they get power to their countries, they can become a second world or first world nation. Then they have a lot of more political power. So geopolitically, this dam in Ethiopia is definitely changing the game.
Lifeblood of Northeast Africa. Among its two main tributaries, the Blue Nile, originating in Ethiopia's highlands.
No, the Chinese did not build it, Mo. Actually, who built it was the Ethiopians. They got no money from the IMF. They got no money from any central banks. They got no loans. Maybe China might have thrown like $1 billion at it. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. But I do know that the individual citizens of Ethiopia basically were asked to come up with the money themselves by their government, and people just started sending money in, and mostly that is what paid for that dam. They are not beholden. Hey, take care, man. You be safe out there, Mike. So they're not beholden to the central banks or to the IMF, and that is definitely destabilizing, because now they're not beholden to the major players, financial players of the world, and they're going to be a power creator. And if you look at that map, let me go, I'll get another map up real quick here. The countries that they're going to be feeding power to will also not be beholding to central banks and loans from these countries or from these central banks. It'll be Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, Central African Republic, DRC, and Tanzania, and Uganda, and Nairobi. Well, Nairobi's in Kenya, and possibly Chad, but I don't think so. Those are the countries that are going to be getting power from this dam. And right now, what that does is that means that those countries that I just mentioned in this area, let me get my cursor over it so you can see me rolling around. Basically, this area here will no longer be needing as many IMF and central bank loans to stabilize their countries, because Ethiopia just elevated itself into a major player, because they're going to be funding the power to these countries here, that where my cursor is going. And that means they are basically going to be a small America, to where I said in the past, and it's been proven so far to be true, America is going to be the energy leader of the world. Well, Ethiopia is going to be like the third largest energy leader of the world. Some very good possibilities of investments long-term for this GERD dam and the projects of the infrastructure of the electrical lines that are running to these different countries to feed them power that they don't have. They're power deficient countries. It's not going to help South Africa, but it'll help Central Eastern Africa with power, and they need power.
Contributes roughly 85% of the Nile's total volume during the rainy season. Yet despite this vital role, Ethiopia has historically been excluded from major decisions on the river's use. This exclusion stems from colonial-era water-sharing treaties, most notably the 1929 and 1959 agreements, which granted the majority of Nile waters to Egypt and Sudan while ignoring upstream nations like Ethiopia. These outdated accords have long been a source of frustration across the Nile Basin and fueled Ethiopia's demand for a more equitable and inclusive framework.
100%, because 80% of the Blue Nile, or 85% of it, comes from Ethiopia. It's Ethiopian water. It starts that river. And these countries, Sudan and Egypt, said, screw Ethiopia. You want to know why they had their problems? I remember as a kid back in the 70s, running joke was, what's the fastest bird in the world? An Ethiopian chicken, because they were going through a famine because they had no water, yet the Blue Nile ran through. They're solving a historic problem for their country that everyone laughed at them in the world when they were going through it, because Sudan and Egypt took all that water and caused that problem. No one wants to look at it from that perspective.
Against this backdrop, Ethiopia launched an ambitious project in the early 2000s to build a massive hydroelectric dam that would address its severe energy shortage and assert its rightful role in managing the Nile's future. Spearheaded by Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, the dam was envisioned as more than just infrastructure. It was a symbol of sovereignty, resilience, and progress. Initially known as the Millennium Dam, it was later renamed the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to reflect its broader significance. The project would go on to become Africa's largest hydropower dam, marking a new chapter in Ethiopia's pursuit of development and regional influence.
Want to know how Tom, Mike, and Luke went from feeling stiff, sore, and injured every day to doing things?
No, don't want to know, but thank you.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is a roller-compacted concrete gravity dam that spans 1,780 meters in length and rises to a height of 145 to 175 meters. It is built on the Blue Nile's narrow gorges, a location chosen for its ideal topography and geology. The main structure consists of roughly 10.7 million cubic meters of concrete, an immense volume that required an efficient and rapid construction methodology. Roller compacted concrete was selected for its cost effectiveness and ability to be placed in thick, horizontal layers without requiring traditional formwork or curing times. A notable feature of the project is the auxiliary saddle dam, a 5-kilometer-long, 50-meter-high concrete-faced rockfill structure designed to help contain the vast reservoir. Together, the main and saddle dams impound the Blue Nile to form a reservoir with a total storage capacity of approximately 74 billion cubic meters, comparable to the volume of Lake Tana. Ethiopia's largest natural lake. Powered by 13 massive turbines, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will generate over 5,000 megawatts of electricity,
That's a lot of
translating
power.
to an estimated 16 terawatt hours annually.
That's a crap load of
Enough to
power.
power over 40 million average African homes, or supply Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania combined for an entire year. This marks a transformative leap in regional energy supply, significantly enhancing Ethiopia's power production capacity and positioning it as a net energy exporter.
Yep.
The dam also
World leader.
incorporates sophisticated hydrological and safety features. It has multiple spillways for flood management, including a primary gated spillway and emergency outlets that were expanded mid-construction in response to downstream concerns about water surges. Seismic design considerations integrated into the foundation to mitigate risks from geologic activity.
Okay, first off, you just heard what they said. They added extra spillway because of concerns of the Ethiopians or of the Egyptians and Sudanese. So they already made concession. The Sudanese are still talking about attacking them for harvesting their own water. Kind of weird, huh?
Engineers paid close attention to sedimentation control given the high silt content of the Blue Nile. Specialized sediment traps and bypass systems were installed to extend the dam's operational lifespan and maintain downstream ecological balance. The total cost of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is estimated at $5 billion. In a rare move for a project of this scale, Ethiopia chose to fund the dam largely through domestic means, launching a national campaign that mobilized citizen contributions, bond purchases, and diaspora support. This national effort became a symbol of unity and independence. While a $1 billion loan from China's Exim Bank supported turbine and electrical purchases, the dam remains one of the few major infrastructure projects in the global south financed primarily from within.
Yeah.
Construction officially began
He
in
just
April
ran over it.
2011 under the
To answer your question, majority financed from within. What that means is all the Ethiopian people sent money in to pay for this dam. Those two gentlemen you see walking up the stairs where my cursor's at, they sent money in to pay for this dam. It was a nationally organized, basically throw your own money at it as much as you want to get this project done kind of thing. And that's how they got the money up. And everyone in the country responded positively.
supervision of WeBuild Group, an Italian firm with extensive experience in large-scale hydropower projects. Despite the project's technical complexity and logistical challenges, civil works proceeded at an impressive pace, especially considering Ethiopia's decision to manage the project independently.
I was at a Chase Sapphire Lounge and I saw a burger on the menu. I took a bite and I was like, whoa, this is really special.
Sorry, we're not paid advertisers here. They ain't paying me. You can watch him sit, but you ain't gonna hear him talk. There's another. Well, we'll just unmute because by the time I get my cursor back over here, it'll be time to take care of them. Boom.
The Blue Nile was successfully diverted in May 2013, and by 2016, key sections of the dam's concrete structure were taking shape. Progress slowed at times due to internal disputes, managerial turnover, and occasional technical recalibrations. In 2018, the project's lead engineer, Simenu Bekele, widely regarded as a national hero, was found dead under mysterious circumstances, casting a shadow over the project's morale. His successor, Kifle Horo, helped refocus the team and steer the project back on track. The first of the dam's turbines began generating electricity in February 2022, marking a pivotal milestone. Subsequent turbines were brought online in stages, while the reservoir was filled in phases over 4 rainy seasons. In October 2024, Ethiopia announced that the final stage of reservoir filling was complete, despite protests from Egypt and Sudan. By mid-2025, the dam's construction was declared fully complete, with plans for a formal inauguration set for September 2025. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has faced several challenges. A key social issue has been the resettlement of thousands from the reservoir area. While the government reported providing compensation and relocation, independent assessments have raised concerns about the adequacy of support. Environmental groups have also warned of reduced sediment flow and disrupted seasonal flooding, which could negatively impact agriculture and fisheries in Sudan. Situated near the East African Rift, the dam faces seismic risks that have been addressed through structural reinforcements, though these require continuous monitoring. Additionally, climate variability, such as irregular rainfall and droughts, may affect reservoir management and power reliability. These challenges underscore the need for adaptive water governance and stronger regional cooperation. At the same time, the dam stands at the heart of Ethiopia's ambition to become a middle-income country. By doubling national electricity output, it addresses an energy deficit affecting over 60% of the population and supports economic growth in agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Regionally, the dam positions Ethiopia as an emerging energy exporter, with power agreements underway with Sudan, Kenya, and Djibouti. It also supports clean, renewable energy generation, reduces flooding in Sudan, and improves water regulation during dry seasons. Beyond its utility, the dam is a symbol of national pride, reflecting Ethiopia's resilience and determination to shape its future. Despite its domestic benefits, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has provoked intense diplomatic disputes, particularly with Egypt. With over 90% of its freshwater supply coming from the Nile, Egypt considers any upstream interference a direct existential threat. A massive dam like this has deepened fears that, without a binding agreement, Ethiopia could unilaterally restrict or delay the river's flow, especially during droughts, potentially cutting off vital supplies essential to Egypt's agriculture, drinking water, and industry. Since 2011, Egypt has lobbied aggressively in regional and international forums to delay or halt the dam's progress, arguing that a legally binding agreement on water release schedules is essential to safeguard downstream flows. Sudan, though initially supportive due to potential flood control and electricity imports, has adopted a more cautious stance over time. Sudan has expressed concerns about the dam's impact on its own dams, sedimentation rates, and water management systems. Egypt and Sudan have both called for a trilateral agreement mediated by external actors, including the African Union, the United Nations, and even the United States. Ethiopia, however, has maintained its right to unilaterally develop the Blue Nile, citing sovereignty and fair resource use. Despite multiple negotiation rounds, no binding agreement has been reached, leaving the dispute a complex geopolitical standoff tied to broader regional concerns. With construction complete and inauguration set for September 2025, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam now enters its most critical phase, long-term operation. Its future impact will hinge not just on electricity generation, but on how effectively water release and reservoir management are handled. Without a binding agreement between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan, these operational decisions could heighten regional tensions. Yet the dam also offers a chance for cooperation. Its vast capacity could anchor broader integration in energy, water management, and regional trade. Joint monitoring and transparent data sharing could turn a source of conflict into one of collaboration. Ultimately, the dam's legacy will depend not only on engineering success, but on whether it inspires trust and diplomacy across borders. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam may be Ethiopia's greatest infrastructure achievement, but its true test lies in what the future holds. Can the Nile become a river of shared progress, or will it remain a fault line of division? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.
Bye-bye. See you in the next video, big man. Wherever that'll come, wherever that'll be. I'm typing right now, so leave me alone. Hold on a second. There we go. All right, finish typing. Yeah, actually, a lot of African countries have kicked. Oh, wow. Yeah. This whole thing of gold. Africa's full of gold. Everett's full of gold. China's in Africa. No, they're not. companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, and Chinese for mining practices that are so I've actually seen stories of whole villages getting together and beating the crap out of the Chinese overlords that were illegal mining operations were run that were costing people lives by the way they were mining and the materials they were using to extract the gold. And what it was, well, as a matter of fact, I did a report. There was like 3 countries ganged up on the Chinese because they polluted the Niobe, I think it was. Don't quote me on that. The Niobe River, like in a 6-month time period, went from clean water to like murky fucking soil colored water. And like 3 countries in Africa were like bitching, and they kicked all the Chinese out. So China built the road leading to the GERD. No, they did not. And even if they did, China's going to sell it back for pennies on the dollar, which is exactly what happened when China or Japan in the 80s supposedly bought up all of Hawaii and all of our electronic goods and the products and the companies that make them. And then all of a sudden some economic issue happened with them and we bought it all back for 10 cents on the dollar. It's called economics. China's got a lot of this thing going. They bought trillions of dollars worth of deep sea ports, but China's going bankrupt. So when China goes bankrupt, the countries where those ports are going to start charging them for maintenance of those ports. So when China can't afford to pay for the maintenance of those ports, they're going to turn them over back to those countries. So long term, those countries are the winners because China's going down. I did a report earlier, another report of many over the past 3 years, giving evidence of a fallen, conquered nation that's been defeated by its own government happening in real time, but it's never happened before, so no one has any gauge to gauge it by, but that's exactly what happened. China has been dying for a long time, and it's towards the end of its death throes. Typically, they go to war, and that'll be the end of them, and then there'll be probably 4 or 5 empires show up or whatever. It might remain China under a different government. Who knows? But like Mongolia, a lot of the independent. It'll be like when Russia fell, the CCCP, or no, was that Russia was the CCP? Yeah, Russia was the CCP and China's the CCCP. But anyhow, when the communist Russia fell, the Eastern Bloc nations became nations again. Same thing will happen when China falls. Mongolia will become a nation. Any other nation that they had or they consumed will go back to being an independent nation, and China will probably be just like a smaller on the map, smaller nation than the map we see now, because the map we see now encompasses a lot of China that China took from other countries in the past 100 years or 60, 80 years. Hey, man, you can go ahead and believe that, but I would take a look at my videos I did, because they came directly from people in Africa showing the Chinese getting kicked out because of their mining, and also the 3 nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, not Niger. No, hold on. Wow, I might have that backwards. Anyhow, there's 3 countries there, the Salt nations. They kicked everybody out, bro. They kicked out the Chinese, they kicked out the colonials, they kicked out the French, they kicked out anyone who wasn't them, got kicked out. Oh yeah, they kicked out the terrorists too. Reason why? Because of all the illegal mining. They discovered that half the gold coming out of their country wasn't even being reported. It was done illegally by, who? Chinese, the terrorists. I showed a couple of reports of Burkina Faso's attacks on the terrorists in the north part of their country and how they were pushing them out and taking control of West Africa, which is pretty big on minerals, and kicking out the people who you were talking about having favor. No, they kicked out the Chinese too, man. I'm sorry. Did a report on it, and it actually came from a news, not me. I didn't just make it up, as all the other reports. It came from other people, other stations that are more popular than me, and I just throw my narrative over them. And I also did research on them, making sure they were valid. Well, they're out of South Africa, Southern Africa. They're out of Eastern, Central, Northern Africa. They're out of West Africa. So yeah, you're right. They might have a little bit in Libya and Egypt. Other than that, they're pretty much out of Africa, man. They might have money loans, but they don't have physical people in there. And having money loans in Africa is different than having physical people. The physical people in Africa getting kicked out. Matter of fact, let me do a quick Google search to see about that river. African river. Polluted by Chinese. We'll even put that down and see what comes up. African river polluted by Chinese. Let's see what comes up. Oh, okay. One significant incident of an African river heavily polluted due to the operations of a Chinese-owned company is the Kafu River disaster in Zambia. Here we go. And my type-in was even rudimentarily third grader. African river polluted by China is what I put. And this is what Google had to come back with me at. It's such a news story that no one covered. And there's more of them. Let's see. Let me show more. Catastrophic collapse of the Tailings Dam in Sinew Metals leaching. Zambia copper mine released approximately 50 million liters, 13 million gallons of highly toxic acidic waste into the river. If you look at the map, you'll see how many countries that affects. Zambia, Zimbabwe, Uganda, all those countries. Destroyed crops along the riverbanks, concerned about underwater ground contamination, water supply shut down, including nearby city of Kitwe, impacting around 700,000 residents. Company involved were Chinese-owned copper mine Sinew Metals. Zambia authorities initially cleanup efforts included dropping lime into the river to neutralize the acid. Let's see. Now there's another river here. Mercury pollution. Here we go. Here's another one. Chinese companies criticized for mercury pollution in Cameroon. Civil authority groups have raised alarm over pollution rivers in northern Cameroon by gold mining companies owned by the Chinese government or Chinese companies. So let me go back and get you another story from another place here. These are just rivers they're destroying in Africa. 50 million users of, let's see, that's the Zambia River, Kofu. Let's go back a little further here. Global. Oh, here we go. The first, there is an overall global legacy of resource extraction. Chinese companies are not alone in having a poor record of environmental control, but are the leader. Suspension of Chinese miner. Oh, here we go. DRC. That's the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central Africa. Suspension of Chinese miners for pollution in DRC points to a wider problem. This is from Manga Bay. It's African company. You probably never heard of them. The Democratic Republic of Congo environmentalist minister recently suspended the operations of Chinese company for pollution. Zhangtang Jingying Wing, whatever you want to pronounce it as, I totally baffled it, is accused of polluting the Arui River. So 3 rivers in Africa polluted, and I just found this information out just by a quick Google search. So 3 major rivers in Africa polluted, and the Chinese and their companies were kicked out of several Central, Eastern, Western, Central African countries for the pollution of 3 major rivers just in the past 3 years. I don't know what you're talking about, Conqueror of Balls. I really don't. Yeah, they're in Djibouti. You know who else is in Djibouti? They're right beside us. England, France, and a whole bunch of other places that have been there for a while. Ain't no real big concern about Djibouti. Well, hell, I got a friend whose son's in the Air Force in Djibouti right now. You know what he's doing? Intelligence works on what? Checking out what the Chinese are doing. Perfect operation for him. Nice place to be, and all you got to do is put up your camera and face it next door to your neighbors, the Chinese. Yeah, just keeping an eye on them. Perfect. So we know everything they're doing. That's why they're down there. Here, we'll do a quick Google search to see how many countries have bases in Djibouti. I like saying that, by the way, Djibouti. I would hate living there because I'd make fun of the name of the country. Hey, get your booty over here, girl. No, I'm talking about the girl from Djibouti, not you, hon. I'm sorry. Oh, wow. I cracked myself up. Sorry. Okay. How many countries have a military base in Djibouti? Girl's got a lot of military up in her Djibouti. Okay, let's see. And this is an at least. At least. Watch the words that Google gave. This is Google telling me this right off the bat. There are at least 6 countries that have military bases in Djibouti. United States, France, Japan, Italy, Germany. Basically the ones I mentioned. Yeah. And it's a real small country. Let's see. How big is Djibouti? Real small. Real small. Let's see. Djibouti is real small to have 6 countries with military bases in it. It's nice to know this information, but it's so old. You know how long those military bases were built? I mean, it's a good fear tactic if you want to bring fear into people's conversations, but I'll blow that tactic right away real quick. Oh, and did you notice of those 6 countries, how many of them were American and American allied countries compared to the 1 Chinese? So it's a 5-on-1. They got in a good scenario. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I'd like to be a Chinese at that base. Be like on red alert all the time. We have 5 enemies all around us. Oh, we're so powerful. No. Japan is not NATO. America, I think we're pulling out of NATO. No, we pull out of the EU. And if we are part of NATO, we basically are NATO if we're there. Because oh no, wait, hold on. It was the EU we pulled out of, and we contributed 22% of the EU's defense budget, and we were only supposed to do 2%, and we produced 22% of the defense budget of the EU for decades. You know how much? I wonder how many trillions of dollars that is, and what is our debt again? So basically, Europe legally owes us our national debt because we're only legally responsible for 2% of NATO's defense budget. Legally, on paperwork, signed, treaties, contracts. Every country in the world is a partner to NATO. If you're buying anything from a NATO country, you are 100% correct. So even Russia, China, hell, even Iran indirectly, because they still need products from NATO countries. So indirectly, even Iran is partner to NATO. That's a very vague statement. Very, very vague. Good for kind of, I don't know, liberal talking point, but very inaccurate as far as trying to get accurate information to people. It's very misleading. Unless you state, oh, Japan is a partner of NATO along with all other 186 countries on the planet. You know, for context. We don't want to take things out of context and mislead people. I don't do that on my show. If Trump came on here, I'd let him know where he was messing up too. In my opinion. And quite frankly, I'd be right. But he's got the Secret Service, so I'd probably be Clintonized. So there's always that. Or is it too early to say I'd be Epstein? Nah, it's not too early. He's been dead for a while. It's a good joke. It's like doing a joke. Who was that guy? Sam Kinison did the God jokes with the heart attack. He was on stage. It was back when Eddie Murphy was big, when they were allowed to curse and stuff like that, tell funny jokes. I think it was Sam Kinison. He had wild freaking like Doc Brown from Back to the Future hair, but it was kind of reddish brown, short, fat guy. He always told a joke about, yeah, one day you'll be there, tell a joke about God. Here's your heart. Bum, 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 bum. And that was the joke. And like a couple months later, he died of a heart attack. Everyone would say, wow, Joe, God got the last laugh on Sam Kinison. And it wasn't too early, after 3 months after his death. So to say you've been Epstein, you're going to get Epstein is the same as saying you're going to get Clintonized. You're going to be Epstein. But it's nice to see that they're calling people out and people are having to go. And all of them are going to claim the fifth, by the way, on that one report I did where they're calling out Hillary Clinton, all the people from way back when all of this thing first started. All of them are going to plead the fifth. So we're not going to get anywhere for years because of our legal system allows them. Well, Hillary Clinton will probably be dead within 10 years. So it'll be a legislative issue or judicial issue of pleading the fifth and trying to find people who won't plead the fifth to get around, ask specific questions, and then have people listed as hostile witnesses and all this other shit. And it'll take long enough for her to almost be dead before they find her guilty of anything. That's my prediction. And of course, that everyone else will be dead long before her. So we'll actually truly get no justice, is my opinion. But justice will be done on paperwork, so we got that. So what we need to concentrate, if we all believe this to be true, is concentrate on our own financial futures and not be distracted by that bullshit. We know what's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. No one's get prosecuted. All the underlings will go to jail. Those people will get off. Cool. Okay, so we know the future. Let's concentrate on finances and becoming rich. You know what I'm saying? Conversation of that is over. We know the ending. Nothing's going to happen. Let's concentrate on things we don't know about. Our financial futures and how we can benefit from all of this information. Well, first off, all the lemmings are going to be concentrating on that information. So what we need to do is we need to do like Bill Clinton, do a can, Bill Clinton shockwave in a can. It'll cost about $1, $1.50, and we can sell it for $9.99 and make millions of dollars. You know, let's come up with some ways to make money off this crap. Be entrepreneurs. Or a better one, sell a rock and have it listed as people testifying against Hillary. And have it like, what do you call them? Not plaintiff, but witness one, and have a rock. And then have witness two and have another rock. You probably sell 1 million of them. Because so many people aren't going to talk. You're just going to sit there like rocks. Plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. Or have written on the rock, I plead the fifth. Witness one, I plead the fifth. Witness two, I plead the fifth. Make money off this shit. Start funny, comical fads or memes that you make money off of. It's all in your perspective. If you know things are going to happen, there's the commonality for the retail is to, oh my gosh, I ain't gonna get shit. None of this. It's negativity. And that's cool. You know, that's natural. I'm not downing anybody. That's natural. We got to get over that and see. And this is why there are billionaires and millionaires, and then the rest of us aren't, because the rest of us are, we go negative. And those people are like, okay, yeah. And there's nothing we can do about it because, more powerful people with more money, more control, more popularity, more whatever are doing their thing. And they're going to do their thing. Nothing we can do about it. So what can we do? Well, let's make money. Okay, sure, we can do that. There's a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are moving, shifting, shaking. That's when you make money. So let's not focus on things that we already know the outcome of according to our own selves. No one's going to jail. Cool. Subject's over with. Don't have to look at the headlines no more. Let's concentrate on financing and becoming wealthy. Economics. Let's convince our children instead of being rich, spoiled brats and wasting all that money, increasing that wealth and get them on this mindset of it's cool to increase wealth and not just spend it for luxuries and lavish lifestyles that are beneficial to nobody. And see if we can't get some of us here to be generational wealthy and have our great-great-grandkids saying, yeah, great-great-grandpa watched this show called Niels Han Dynasty and he taught him about generational wealth. And now I'm sitting here looking at, I'm going to buy 3 star cruisers that are going to go mine this new asteroid that we just got the contract for and make $17.2 trillion profit. Thanks, Grandpa. And yeah, it would be that kind of profit because obviously, inflation, right? 50 years, that's about how much it'll cost. That's how much profit you'll be talking. I was thinking about, wow, yeah. I was thinking about different metal, like lappings, putting together and running electrical charges for them to see if you could get some sort of a shielding system for space travel, for the micro comets or whatever they're called, space dust that you hit up fast. My mind started going towards thinking about that kind of shit because there's going to be companies out there that are doing space money. I'm sure NASA, I don't like what NASA, I do know what NASA uses. I don't like it. There's better shit out there. As far as micrometeor hits, their technology is rudimentarily old in thought process and everything. I think magnetic shielding is the way to go. And what you'll do with that is you have different metal overlays and then electrify them to put out a magnetic wave that'll deflect oncoming things. Kind of like when I showed you the 2 live streams ago, the plasma and how we can, with sound and heat, mostly sound, we can take a straight shot line of plasma and bend it around objects. That same principle. And I'm glad I showed that video from 2 days ago. If you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it to understand what I'm talking about. Instead of making whatever, in the case of what I'm talking about, it was the plasma that we were looking to manipulate and control. Instead of just shooting a straight line or however it arcs through the ions around it and whatnot, we can control that now in a small scale. We just got to ramp up the scale for bigger things to happen. You can do the same thing. Just control, instead of the power, control the thing that's going to be facing the power and have it push that power source around it to where it doesn't affect it. And I think that comes from some sort of a multi-layered metal, thin metal, multi-layered, electrically charged for a magnetic effect that would shoot out. Because, like if you think about magnetic trains, these speed trains, and they're called magnetic lift. Well, that's the magnetic force shooting out. If it's strong enough to lift a several 1,000-ton train and move it forward, that same principle can be used to divert, not stop, just push out of the way 3%, maneuver a fast oncoming micrometeor. That's my thought process. So I'm looking at companies that are looking into doing that kind of thing because I think they're going to be big in the next 10 years, 15 years. Just to give you an advance warning of what I'm looking at for my 60s. In case anyone's interested, which obviously is not because I lost 4 people. That's how it works. All right. Well, I haven't had a comment in a while, so I imagine we're about to the end of the live stream. In which case, I just wanted to bring you all those different stories to start with because they were diverse and very interesting and informative. Anyhow, you guys have a great week ahead. Enjoy it.